Hey, welcome to Flow Tricks. Today we are going to get a little bit lower. A lot of times we stay upright. And we tend to fall into a very similar style pattern where we have the triangular stance, or we're just kind of standing normal, or we're just kind of walking around. And we don't really give ourselves opportunities to go up or down. So as we move our bodies up and down, it can create a different dynamic. So today I want to kind of talk about a couple of low combos that are really easy to use, but really good to just kind of get in the hang of. Now, in my opinion, the easiest way to get down low, there's usually a couple ways, but I usually just take a giant step. I'll go with my left foot, for instance. I'll take a giant step diagonally and fall to a knee like this. And while I do that, I can still continue to do my combos. I might do like a number 3 bounce in this push. You remember this hyper combo where we're bouncing it under the tricep, we're lifting it up horizontally, we're pushing it sideways, and we're catching it. We can kind of do this as we come down to our knee. So in this kind of stance, we have some options, some different varieties that we can do, and I'm just gonna work off this stance for today. But keep in mind, the thing that makes this interesting is, one, if they're used to you being up high, this will give you a different dimension. This will just kind of create a little bit more variety, which people like. A lot of times when people watch you spin or perform, if you do too much of the same thing, it gets kind of boring, right? If you do figure 8 wrist rolls for 3 minutes, 4 minutes, it gets repetitive. So changing the angle can change a lot. First, you can do all of the same moves that you usually do. If you want to do your wrist rolls, if you want to do your rips, that's great. That's fine, that's it. You should do that. But also introduce something that is maybe more unique. So the first thing I'd like you to do is get used to your legs being in this type of pattern, and then try to see if you can use your legs the way they bend. This one's going down, this one's going over and down. Use this as part of a way to create bounce points, basically. Now, it's very important, especially if you're not using light chucks or if you're not using foams, that if you're using something like wood, it's real easy to hit your shins on this. So a lot of times when I get up close and personal with some of these bounces, for instance, I'm gonna show you this bounce here. If we bounce it to the outside of my shin, as I go, if I wanna try to bounce it to the inside on the other side here, I have to keep my hand really tight closely here, because if I swing it around, it's gonna hit the side of my leg instead, boom, right? So you have to be very tight with your motions as you get smaller, as you go down a little bit. So the first thing I want you to practice is just like how we would bounce it from tricep to tricep here. We're gonna bounce it to the outside and to the outside of our shin, well, to the left side, I should say, of the shin, and then to the right side of the hip, here and here. This itself isn't the most exciting thing. You can add like a back to front hand roll or a front to front hand roll. So you can add hand rolls to kind of make it a little more interesting. But first, get used to this bounce that's going to the outside. And you're gonna notice it's kind of like hyper style. We can also kind of bounce it to the inside. So now we can go from this thigh and bounce it from the outside to the inside. Now what you notice here is most of my force, my hand doesn't really leave too far out of here. Because again, if I move too far out, bam, I just whacked my shins. So what we gotta do is keep it nice and tight. So we can go from inside, outside, bounce it back and forth, and then go back out here. Boom, 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 boom. Oops, did you see that? It was just because my hand was too far out. Again, we gotta keep it nice and tight, nice and tight. Something that might help if you really don't have much space is to pull your hand forward and backwards too. So basically most of the swing comes in from going from the sagittal motion. You can also do that. Just make sure your hand doesn't swing too far out or you're gonna hit yourself. The next thing what we're gonna do is, once we have it bounce once, we're gonna turn our hand inside of our leg and we're gonna make it bounce to the outside across. So basically it's gonna be 1, 2, inside, and we're gonna pull it across, and we can actually do this cross grab that happens over here. So the way I want you to practice this for now is to go on the outside of your thigh, inside of your thigh, and again, if you swing out too far to get ready for this, you're gonna hit yourself in the shin like that. So make sure it's nice and tight, and then you're gonna swing across. Your other hand, what it's gonna do is gonna drop down by your shin like so. And another trick is, once it bounces across the inner thigh, you're really swinging your hand across and flicking your hand outward. That is gonna be most of the motion, otherwise you're gonna hit yourselves. So it's here, flick it out with the motion, and you grab it like so. And then you can do the same transfer, hip to shin, and vice versa. You can go to the inside as well. So we're gonna go back here. We're here, inside, bounce it out like so. And then we can also bounce it across the hips. So if you're going across, whoosh, 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 here, boom, 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 cross, grab. You see how easy and simple that was? This can hurt your shins. I'm on concrete right now, which isn't the best thing for it, but just to let you know, it can hurt your shins. So make sure if you do it and you're in a performance, make sure you note the ground and how long you can stay, or how good your kneecaps can be on this kind of flooring. So we've got this bounce over here, and then we've got this pass across here. You can also do this really interesting cross grab that also happens. Though this is gonna be a left hand, and right now what I'm doing is I'm bouncing it to my thigh here, and I'm swinging it all the way around. The moment it starts to circle underneath, I'm really, again, tightening my hand to more just kind of swing my wrist under like this, because what's gonna happen again is you don't wanna hit yourself on the inner thigh, which this can happen quite a bit. So we're really trying to make this nice and tight. And what's gonna happen is, once we get this wrap, it's gonna be kind of the same thing. What we're trying to do is get our hand all the way across here, and then the other hand cross grabs like this. So we're really trying to get this nice tight cross grab. Here, here, grab, and over and through. So those are two really simple grabs that you can do. It's gonna take a little bit of work. Getting that cross grab, again, most of this stuff is simple, but because of the tight spaces that your legs make, it can be a little more complicated. But what you'll find is, once you learn how to work around those patterns, around these obstacles, you're gonna have a lot of variety. Don't forget you can include finger rolls, hand rolls, throws, and all different kinds of things. So this is just the beginning, but this should set you up for a new pattern, a new platform, and I think you might enjoy it.